Hello, I'm Dr. Rebecca Wada from Francis Marion University, and I wanted to welcome you to this virtual information session that's going to go over some key information about the program, including admissions requirements and some frequently asked questions that we get. So this PowerPoint is going to cover an introduction to our program, the different requirements that you need for admissions and our prerequisite courses, the clinical experiences that you will get to experience in our graduate program, some highlights about the program here, and some frequently asked questions. So starting with some introduction about our program is fully accredited by the Council on Academic Accreditation in Audiology and Speech Language Pathology, and we are considered a residential program, meaning we are an in-person program. Here at Francis Marion University, our program covers 5 semesters that will have diverse clinical experiences throughout it, getting you all of the clinical hours that you need to graduate, as well as the knowledge and all the skills that you need to go on to obtain your certificate of clinical competency in speech language pathology, as well as licensure in the state that you want to work in. You'll be prepared for all aspects of speech language pathology, including preventative measures, diagnosing, and treatment in all of the different disorder areas. So why choose Francis Marion University? Our program has a small student to faculty ratio. Our current cohort as of this semester, fall 2025, we have our first years, there are 31 of them, and also 31 of our second years. So it's a small student to faculty ratio each year. We have a high praxis pass rate. All of your clinical experiences, you begin being supervised on site by FMU faculty and going off site to different placements, but still being supervised with those FMU faculty. This is going to help you with that connection between what you learn in class and what you do in clinic because we are all very well connected with each other. When you go offsite and fully offsite, these clinical experiences you get will be in a variety of settings, including public schools, private practices, even hospitals, specialty clinics, things like that. We have connections now in basically any setting that you may want to work in. At Francis Marion, our faculty here has specialties in video stroboscopy, so looking at the throat for different measures along with voice, along with other things that you can do. Caregiver coaching and routines-based intervention, which is a very big, very prominent evidence-based practice for early intervention. Applying implementation science to support the use of evidence-based practices. So how do you get to do something new? And how do you get to teach caregivers to do new things? You'll get experience with swallowing, and our faculty have specific training in fiber optic endoscopic evaluation of swallowing, as well as modified barium swallow studies, as well as school-based and medical-based aspects of the profession. Additionally, our program, you're going to get strategic preparation for the praxis. So while you will get information about the praxis and you will learn knowledge throughout all your classes, we do also provide additional guided preparation for that praxis, including different study strategies throughout the semester that you learn, as well as usually having some guided lecture opportunities to help with key areas. You'll get simulated experiences in coding and billing, so you'll learn how to do coding and billing and how insurance works while you're on our in-campus clinic. We have access to simulation labs, so you can, again, practice hands-on skills in a real-life situation, but without the added pressure of it being a real person for some of those initial things that you'll learn how to do. You'll get preparation for medical practicums. You'll get different research opportunities. Every cohort is required to do a research project, and that is done with groups and with different research advisors, so you get experience of research. We give you support for state and national conference attendance to help you with your networking and to continue your education. We hold mixed lunch and learn journal clubs to bring in speakers on key topics throughout the semester. We have interprofessional collaboration with the different components of and the different departments here at the university. Most often we collaborate with occupational therapy and psychology, but there are other opportunities to work through classes and in the clinic. As well as we have a National Student Speech Language Hearing Association chapter here, or NISHLA, that is very active and provides great opportunities to not only work with your fellow students, but also to do some outreach for the community. Additionally, our program has the #2 ranking in South Carolina for speech language pathology programs, which is really great and impressive considering that we are a very small university. We're very proud of that fact. So now let's go over those admissions and your prerequisite requirements to get into the graduate program. So for admissions to the graduate program, you need to have a bachelor's degree. That bachelor's degree can be in communication sciences or disorders, or it can be in any other degree, as long as you have the satisfied prerequisite course requirements that we'll review in just a minute. You need to have a minimum GPA of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. You'll need 3 letters of recommendation from current professors, associates, anyone that can attest to your academic and clinical potential. We strongly recommend that you get your letters from former or current professors. The more related to the field, the better. And then if you are accepted, you need to have those 25 supervised or guided observation hours before you can begin your practicum in the first semester. In order to apply, you'll build your application on CIDCAS, the Communication Sciences and Disorders Centralized Application System. And we will have 2 deadlines that will be very important for you to meet. You can have the early admission deadline, which is February 1st, 2026. And then we have the regular application deadline of April 1st, 2026. If you get your admissions application in and it's verified, and that's the key, it must be verified by February 1st, 2026, then you'll be reviewed then and you'll get the first slots for the application process. However, you will have up until April 1st, 2026 to be considered. So if you are not able to meet that February 1st deadline, you have until April 1st. I always highly recommend that you get your application in the sooner the better, because generally we have less applicants at that February deadline than April deadline, so we consider it against fewer people. Remember that it takes several weeks for your application to be verified, and it can take several weeks for documents that you submit or request to be submitted to be received by CIDCAS. So I highly recommend that you submit your application at least 2 weeks before each deadline, whichever one you want to meet, so that CIDCAS has time to verify your application, because your application must be verified, which is an additional step. So if your goal is to meet that February 1st deadline, I highly recommend that you submit your application no later than January 15th. What you need to submit to CIDCAS is all of your official transcripts for all education that you've completed at the undergraduate and or graduate level. You will need a copy of your current resume or your CV, whichever you have. You'll need to write a personal statement of approximately 500 words that addresses this prompt. This prompt is also listed in CIDCAS and it's listed on our website. And you'll need to submit your 3 letters of recommendation. Again, we need you to have at least 1 letter that's coming from a faculty member that you've taken a course from, and it's highly recommended that the additional 2 letters for 3 total are also from faculty references. Once your application is submitted and verified, we'll be holding interviews to the most competitive applicants. These interviews will usually occur within a couple weeks after the deadline. Once the deadline has passed, so example, let's say the February 1st deadline has passed, then usually within 2 weeks, you'll be notified if you have been given an interview. These interviews will take place via Zoom. You'll be provided a date and a time and an option to reschedule if it conflicts with any requirements that you have. Now, let's say that you have an undergraduate degree, whether in communication science disorders or a different disorder. There are general prerequisites that you need to have met in order to be admitted to the program. The general requirements come from ASHA, the American Speech Language Hearing Association, and for these general requirements, you must have at least 1 course that fits into these 4 categories. So the categories are biological sciences, physical science, social behavioral sciences, and statistics. And there's a variety of courses that can apply to each of these. The key that you must be very aware of is that physical science course must be a physics or a chemistry. A general physical science course usually does not meet the requirements. So you must have taken maybe Introduction to Physics or Introduction to Chemistry. You need at least a 3-credit physical science course. For biological sciences, social sciences, statistics, there are many courses that can fit this. The other thing to be aware of is if you have taken this course for teachers, so for example, biology for teachers, those courses are usually geared to how to teach biology and are not overview of biology. So that's something also to be aware of. If you have questions about whether your courses that you have taken will meet these requirements, I am the advisor for our prerequisite courses, and I'd be happy to meet with you and to review the courses that you have taken and to see if you meet these general requirements. For the speech language pathology prerequisite courses, these are background courses you need to have in order to be able to start the graduate program, because these are things that you will be expected to know leading into the courses. and are required so you can understand the material at the very beginning. So here are the courses you need to have. You need to have anatomy and physiology of the speech and hearing mechanisms. You need speech and language development, introduction to audiology, introduction to communication disorders, which is a survey course on the field of communication sciences and disorders. You need your phonetics course, and you need your clinical observations that are those 25 supervised hours taken as part of an academic course. These could be a standalone course. They could have been completed in some universities. The introduction to communication disorders or the speech and language development includes getting those observation hours as part of it. So these observation hours could be a standalone course or it could have been built into another course, but they are 25 supervised hours that you have done as part of an academic course. For all of these prerequisites, you have to have earned a grade of B or better in order to be considered as successfully completed. So if you got a C in any of these courses, you would need to retake them to get that grade of at least a B. These courses can be accepted from any institution as long as they are at least an undergraduate level. And we do offer these courses online at Francis Marion University. So if there are any courses that you need to get, you can take them from us. If you are a current FMU student, you are able to take these SLP courses that we offer. You can take it as a minor and take all of these prerequisite courses as part of the minor, or you can take these courses online and just take the specific courses that you need if you don't want to do the full minor. We offer these prerequisite courses at the undergraduate and graduate level in all semesters, just varies which courses get offered on each semester. If you are a current FMU student and you would like to either do the minor or start taking these prerequisite courses, again, you can contact me as I am the minor and prerequisite advisor, and we can come up with a plan for you on how to take these courses based off of how many classes you can fit into your schedule when you graduate, things like that. So if you want to do the minor, here's the information for the minor at Francis Marion University. It includes all of those prerequisite courses with one additional course, that speech and language disorders course, and you get those clinical observation hours if you do the elective. If you already have your bachelor's degree, or you are a senior at another university, you can take these courses. If you are at another university, you can take them as a transient student. If you already have your bachelor's degree, you can take these as a post-baccalaureate student. We offer all of these prerequisite courses at the 500 level, which is a graduate level. These are offered online every semester for the most part, and these are usually asynchronous, meaning there's no set meeting time so they can fit nicely into your schedule. So if you have any questions about these, again, you can contact me and I can get you set up. So what will you be experiencing here at Francis Marion University? Well, your first 1 to 2 semesters, you'll be working and completing clinical hours in our on-campus clinic. And really here the emphasis is being placed on being able to use those evidence-based practices that you are learning about in your classes. So there's a lot of emphasis put on practicing something in class and then immediately practicing it again in the clinic. You'll get simulated experiences with coding and billing, so you'll learn all about that process, how to report to insurance, what you have to report, how to make those reports, how do you do your treatment plans and your daily notes, how do you bill correctly. And you get opportunities to collaborate with occupational therapy, ABA, and even with nursing if necessary. Once you go off campus, these usually begin in your third semester, which is the summer semester, and you'll stay off campus in your second year. And here you're going to be in any setting based off of which experiences you still have to complete and some of your personal preference. And we have placed students in inpatient hospitals, outpatient rehab facilities, outpatient sections of hospitals, skilled nursing facility, private practices, home health and early intervention, and public schools. Now, you may start to do some off-campus things earlier than this third semester. And even in the beginning of the first semester, you will do things outside of the clinic, such as screeners or going on to different experiences in the community, but again, under that supervision of your on-campus clinical supervisor. Now, some of those other non-clinical highlights that we do here at Francis Marion that make us a little more unique, starting with our routines-based intervention and caregiver coaching. So as part of your early intervention class, you will learn all about family-guided routines-based intervention, which is really a key and extremely evidence-based practice for early intervention. And this is teaching all about how do you help caregivers work and create meaningful activities with their children. Because you as a speech pathologist can only spend so much time with each patient that you see. However, their family is there with them 24 hours a day. So if we can help the family in a way, make every activity a therapy activity, that's going to get us the most bang for our buck. So you'll learn all about how to do this as we have very highly recognized faculty members here that are experts in this area. You'll get experience with augmentative and alternative communication. This is one of the courses that I teach. And then with AAC, you learn all about how to help someone communicate to the best of their ability using any tool that fits for them. So you will learn what is AAC. You'll learn how to find the right device or even devices for your clients. You'll learn how you teach someone to use device, how to modify that device, and you get different opportunities to interact with the devices through our AAC Palooza, which is an event that we hold every year, where we bring in different AAC vendors and different AAC programs in the state. So you will get to get hands-on with different devices and see what the current technology is. You will get to network and get contact information for the AAC reps in the area, which will be definitely needed for you as you go out into your practice. And you'll learn about different programs that might be useful to your clients. So you'll learn about it through the class as well as some hands-on activities. When it comes to medical speech language pathology, you will get experience with fiber optic endoscopic evaluation of swallowing, as well as your modified barium swallow study. And you will get to practice this not just with the coursework that you complete, but with hands-on simulated activities as well. For voice disorders, you will learn all about what is a voice disorder, how you assess and treat, but you will also get to learn how to use laryngeal video stroboscopy to look at vocal folds, and you'll get practice scoping people with video stroboscopy. You'll learn how to assess and treat voice disorders using programming from the computerized speech lab. So that way you get, again, not just the knowledge, but also hands-on practice. Within the clinic, you will get experience with the preschool language lab. Will allow you to work with small groups of young children, preschoolers and below, to help teach them not just the language that they need, not just working on their communication, but also beginning to teach them the routines and the culture of a preschool to help them with that transition from going from home to out in the school environment. And this is going to help you learn not just how to work with groups of children, but also to help work in this simulated environment. You'll get practice using all the different strategies you'll learn about in your classes. And you'll get to learn about AAC devices, integrating sensory things, potentially bringing in the occupational therapy students to work with sensory along with speech and language at the same time. Through the simulated encoding and medical billing that we've talked about, you'll learn how to complete treatment plans and plans of care and progress notes. So when you are again practicing as a full clinician, you learn about the insurance and you'll know how to do that side, which can be a very steep learning curve if you haven't had any chance to practice before. So now I'm going to go over some of our frequently asked questions that might be the kind of the pressing information that you have. If you have any questions beyond what's covered here, please contact us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So can you complete the general course requirements while you take the SLP prerequisite courses? And yes, you can. Those 4 general prerequisite course requirements, your biology, your social science, your statistics, your physical science, those can be taken before you do the SLP prerequisites. At the same time, there's no order to them. The key is that you just have them done before you begin graduate school. Can you use financial aid to pay for the prerequisite courses? So because the prerequisite courses, those post-bac courses, do not lead to a degree, usually financial aid will not cover them. So things like your FAFSA, your federal student aid, those usually only cover classes that lead to a degree. So you would have to pay privately for all these prerequisite courses. How should your observation hours be documented? So if you get those 25 observation hours, just keep hold of whatever information you got from that class when you get accepted, and hopefully you will. The orientation packet that you get with all the information you need before the semester begins will tell you how you need to document those hours. Does taking the prerequisite courses at FMU guarantee you will be admitted into the MSLP program? No, these are not separate application processes. They're separate things, so taking them does not guarantee admission to the program. You will still have to apply specifically to the master's program. Does the MSLP program offer distance education? Yes, so some of our graduate courses are offered online. However, we are an in-campus program, and so the majority of the classes will be in person on our downtown campus in downtown Florence. So while some courses may be online, you'll be expected to be in person for the duration of the program. Is the MSLP program full-time or part-time? We are a full-time only program, so you will take a full course load and a full load of practicum hours every semester. Do you need to complete all the prerequisite courses before CIDCAS will verify your application? So no, you just need to have all of these courses completed before beginning the first semester. If you are still completing courses in progress, if you're going to submit your application in the spring and complete courses in the summer, that is totally fine. You just need to make sure that all of these courses will be met before the fall semester begins. And then we, as the admissions committee, might have questions to make sure that you are taking those courses, or you might have to submit an updated transcript after the courses are completed to demonstrate that you did successfully complete the courses that you had left with at least a B or above. Does your application need to be verified? Yes, your application must be verified by CIDCAS before we will review it. So make sure that you are submitting it in enough time that it can be verified before the deadline. Should you apply for graduate school if you don't have the 25 guided observation hours? Yes. Just keep in mind that you cannot earn practicum hours until you complete the observation hours. So if you start the program without having these 25 guided observation hours, you will complete those within the first 2 weeks of the semester so you can begin your practicum placements. So it's always better to complete them ahead of time because those first 2 weeks of the semester are busy enough. If you can take one thing off your plate, it's highly recommended. Is there a GRE requirement for your application? No, you do not need to take the GRE. If you have taken it and you really like your scores, you can submit those as a supplemental material, but there's no requirement to take the GRE. Should you apply if you have an undergraduate GPA that is slightly lower than 3.0? Yes, please do. We generally use a holistic approach, meaning we're going to look at your unique experiences and your situation along with measures like your GPA and your writing sample. So if you have a 2.9, potentially even down to a 2.8 or lower, do still submit your application and make sure that you have the strong letters of recommendation, a really good writing sample, other measures to show that you would be successful in graduate school. Your previous university used a pass-fail grading scale. Will that affect your admission to the program? So this is where it's going to depend. Because a pass or a fail can equate to as low as a C or a D, and you need to have at least a B for the SLP prerequisite courses, you need to have a full grade point scale for those SLP prerequisite courses. So if you have a pass for, let's say, Introduction to Communication Disorders, you would need to retake that course to get an actual letter grade. Now, if this is something like your biology requirement or your chemistry or physics, because those do not have a grade attached that you need to have met, a pass is fine there. So you need to have a letter grade for your SLP prerequisite courses. Any other course is generally okay if you have a pass-fail grade instead. Do we offer graduate assistantships? Yes, we do have a limited number of assistantships, and these assistants usually work in our materials room. They help check materials in and out, keep things tidy, do different things around the clinic. Now, this assistantships will not be a full-time job, and it's not going to be enough money to cover major bills like tuition or rent, but it is an opportunity for you to earn a little bit of money in a way that is related to your studies and is a little less demanding if you need a little bit of extra help. If you are interested in your assistantships, when you get accepted to the program, you'll email Dr. Burns, the program department chair, and she will be monitoring who gets assistantships. So if you want an assistantship, you will contact Dr. Burns. What is the current tuition rates? Here's our current tuition rate for per semester for in-state and for out-of-state residents. For the online courses that we have, are they synchronous or asynchronous? Synchronous meaning a set meeting time, asynchronous meaning no set meeting times. This will depend on the course and the instructor, and some are synchronous, some are asynchronous. Can you complete your practicums out of state? Yes, with some caveats. So we require that all practicum sites be within 3 hours of Francis Marion University. So if you have a practicum site that is out of state but still within 3 hours, it is possible for you to complete your practicum out of state. You will work with our coordinator for clinical education, Miss Marilyn McClan-Mack, and she will place you with your practicums. And so she will work with where you live, what experiences you need to have, what are your strong areas, what interests do you have to fit you with a site that works best for you. And that may be out of state, it may not be. And this kind of goes along with our next question. Can clinical rotations be completed where you currently live? Potentially. If you live within 3 hours of FMU, then there's a potential that you can have a practicum where you live, but it is not guaranteed because you do need to have varied experiences. There are certain requirements that we have for practicum sites. So there's a chance that your practicum could be near where you live, but again, it is not a guarantee. Are out-of-state students eligible for on-campus housing? Yes, all our students are eligible for on-campus housing. However, keep in mind that the main campus where the on-campus housing is about 15 to 20 minutes away from where the classes are occurred in downtown Florence. So you'll need to make sure that you have reliable transportation to make sure that you can get to your classes. Also, keep in mind that there really isn't graduate housing in the on-campus clinic. They will try to keep graduate students together, but there isn't a graduate dorm. So you'll have to keep that in mind when you're thinking of when's going to be the best living arrangement for you. What is the deadline to apply? So the deadline for early admission is February 1st and regular admission is April 1st. Remember that you need to have your applications be verified. So that you need to be submitting these before these due dates. This is when the application needs to be verified by. If you're applying for the prerequisite courses are not through CIDCAS. The prerequisite courses applications are directly through Francis Marion graduate applications, and these are reviewed as they are submitted on a rolling basis. So if you want to take the prerequisite courses, you apply through Francis Marion. If you're applying for the master's program, you're going to apply through CIDCAS. When should you expect an invitation to interview? All applications verified by the deadline will be reviewed within 1 to 2 weeks. And then the applicants who are eligible for interviews will be notified that about the week after. So once the deadline has passed, within about 2 to 3 weeks, you should hear back about an interview. When do you find out if you've been accepted in the program? This is what everyone wants to know. Once your interview has been completed, you will generally receive an update on your status, and that could include acceptance, within 1 to 2 weeks after your interview. So generally, this full process will be completed within about a month, 4 to 5 weeks after each deadline. Is there an orientation to the master's program and what will happen? So there is an orientation to your master's program every year. It takes place the week before the fall semester begins. So you can request to move into on-campus housing early if you want to live on campus. If you're living off campus, make sure that you start your rental or wherever you're living early enough so you can get there and moved in before orientation begins. Orientation usually takes the full week, and it's going to cover a lot of topics, including transitioning to grad school, professional growth, planning, time management. It'll go over clinical expectations. You might have some training that you need to do in order to start clinic that first week of the semester, expectations, things like that. So be prepared that if you are accepted, that you'll move in and start this orientation the week before the fall semester. You will receive a packet once you are accepted, generally at the beginning of the summer. That includes all the paperwork you need to submit, things you need to get done, orientation schedule. All that information will be covered in your packet that you'll get usually at the beginning of the summer semester so you can start planning and preparing. So thank you for watching this. If you have any questions about the Master's of Speech Language Pathology program at Francis Marion University, please let us know. We really hope to see your application and to see you in our program.